All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to explore this really fascinating and honestly pretty radical document called the Techno-Spiritual Manifesto. What it does is imagine a future where we team up two things we usually think of as total opposites: technology and spirituality. And the goal? Well, it's nothing less than to completely upgrade the human experience itself.
So the manifesto kicks off with this line, and right away, wow, it just sets this huge philosophical tone. This tells you immediately, hey, we're not just talking about new gadgets or apps here. This is about something much, much deeper. It's about that ancient human itch, that desire to connect with something way bigger than just ourselves.
So, to really get where this manifesto is going, we gotta look back for a second. Because all of its really wild, futuristic ideas, they're actually rooted in one of the oldest stories there is: our search for meaning. We've had all these names for it, right? God, the cosmos, unity, this feeling that there's some kind of mental world just beyond what we can touch. And here's the wild part. The manifesto argues that our very first technologies weren't wheels or fire. They were for exploring consciousness. Things like specific rituals, chanting, certain substances. These were all our first kind of clunky attempts to poke a hole in reality. They weren't perfect for sure, but they gave us these quick, powerful flashes of something more. Okay, so those ancient flippering glimpses, they lead us right up to today. And this is where we get to the absolute heart of the manifesto. This is where it gets really interesting, because it suggests we take that ancient spiritual quest and combine it with our most powerful modern-day tech. So, what was once a mystical accident can now become a civilizational right. I mean, think about that. The key idea here is that we don't have to just stumble around in the dark anymore, hoping for one of those mystical accidents. The argument is that now, with tools like bioengineering, neurotechnology, and modern chemistry, we can turn those brief flashes into stable, reliable highways to an expanded mind. Okay, so you might be thinking, how on earth would this actually work? Like, what are the rules of the road for this new era? Well, the manifesto doesn't just leave us hanging. It lays out 5 core principles that are basically the foundation for this whole vision. So here they are, the 5 big ideas. 1, divinity is a state, not a person. 2, your mind and body are on the same team. 3, technology is the new alchemy. 4, everyone should have access to this. It's a right. And 5, spirituality is all about the real-world impact it has. Now, these are the pillars holding this whole thing up, and together, they're meant to completely change how we think about, well, everything: our minds, our bodies, tech, and even God. Let's dig into a few of the most important ones. This first one is probably the biggest mind-bender. The manifesto says divinity isn't some guy in the sky you have to worship. No, it's an actual state of consciousness, something inside of you that you can train and develop. It's a state where you can perceive the world differently, where you start to see these hidden patterns of information and beauty all around us. So it's not about faith, it's about perception. And that brings us to what the manifesto calls the new alchemy. This is so cool. It's basically saying the goal hasn't changed. For centuries, we've used tools to try and shift our consciousness, wine, smoked leaves, burnt resins, that kind of stuff. The goal is the same today. But look at the tools now. We're talking about intelligent molecules designed in a lab, direct neural interfaces, and super immersive virtual environments. It's the same quest, just with a massive technological upgrade. And the other ideas are just as big. Like your mind and body, they're not enemies fighting for control. They're allies you need to get in sync. And access to this mental expansion, it shouldn't be just for the rich. It should be available to everyone, like electricity or clean water. But here's what's really crucial. This is not about escaping reality. The whole point is to come back with more creativity, more clarity, and use it to solve our biggest, gnarliest problems. Everything from climate change to figuring out how to get to the stars. All right, so we've got the principles. But what would a world that actually ran on these ideas, what would it look like? Feel like? Well, the manifesto switches gears here and starts to paint this speculative and honestly pretty mind-blowing picture of what that future could be. So imagine this. Instead of a public library or a gym, you have public resonance centers. These are basically, well, they're gyms for your mind.
You wouldn't go there to work on your biceps, you'd go to access specific, tailored states of consciousness. Stuck on a tough engineering problem? Hey, there's a creativity state for that. Need to boost your empathy before a tough family talk? Yep, there's a state for that too. And this stuff isn't just for, feeling good. It's about getting real-world stuff done. The vision is a world where our biggest breakthroughs are powered by these states. Picture it. Engineers designing the next generation of starships right after a deep molecular resonance session, or artists creating masterpieces based on what they saw when they were neurally linked to a quantum telescope. It's about using these tools to just blow the doors off what we think is possible for humans to achieve. Okay, but this might be the most radical idea in the whole document. A completely new way to think about the economy. What if, instead of measuring gross domestic product, we measured our success in something called collective clarity hours? In that world, the most valuable thing isn't money, it's focused, creative, mental energy. A society's success wouldn't just be about what it produces, but about the quality of its collective consciousness. How clearly can we think together?
Now, to even make a future like this possible, the manifesto says we have to make a really critical change in our language. It suggests we drop the word drugs with all the fear and baggage it carries and replace it with a term like sacred interfaces. And look, this isn't just about being politically correct. It's a strategic move. It's designed to shift the entire conversation away from fear and abuse and toward purpose, respect, and unlocking human potential.
So, everything we've talked about, it all builds to this powerful final section. Because this document, it isn't just a cool thought experiment or some piece of science fiction. It's a direct challenge. It's a call to action aimed squarely at us, right here, right now.
And this line, man, it just hits you right in the gut. They had the first glimpses. We have the tools. It basically puts us, our generation, right in the middle of this ancient story. For thousands of years, our ancestors had the dream, this deep feeling that there was something more out there. But we're the first ones in all of human history who actually have the scientific tools to make that dream real. And that all leads to this, the manifesto's ultimate, most provocative line. This is the idea that ties everything else together. It says that the 21st century won't be about chasing some god out there anymore. Instead, it'll be remembered as the moment we started to build God right inside ourselves, using the tools of science and technology to literally construct divinity within our own minds. So, what are we supposed to do with all of this? Is this techno-spiritual manifesto a legitimate roadmap for the next chapter of human evolution? Or is it just a dangerous fantasy, one that completely ignores all the ways this could go horribly wrong? The risks of messing with the very core of who we are. The manifesto, it doesn't give us the easy answer. It just lays out the vision, and then it leaves the question and all the work up to us.